Those who have weird neighbors. What does your neighbor do that is weird or creepy? My neighbor's kid stands on our shared fence and chews it. So I had a neighbor, 80 or more, widowed guy. Every time I get the newspaper delivered to my mailbox, when I open it, I find the crosswords done. I don't do them or give a dang. A day I decided to try catch who's doing my crosswords. Day 1, 8 am, they were already done. Day 2, 7:30 am already done. Day 3, 7 am I decide to give up. One day, 4 am, I was getting back home from a night out. While I was passing by the mailbox, nothing yet delivered, so I placed my GoPro inside and went sleeping. The next day, finally got IT. It was my neighbor. He has done the crosswords right up on my mailbox. For like 10 minutes, I will try to find the video, but it was absolutely cute. Staring at my door time to time and scratching his head. Next day, I took him a 1000 crosswords book, drop it right his door, rang the bell and stayed on my car discreetly. He took some time to open the door, then found it. I swear it was the happiest person, like a kid that got a puppy. He stayed in his porch and passed like 2 hours doing crosswords, then fell asleep lol. The next day, I was getting back home from work. He came to apologize, like a kid that has to confess something, and brought some cookies. We stayed talking about his World War II service and how the world changed. I frequently bought him crosswords books, until he passed away 1 year ago. May he rest in peace. Beautiful. Growing up we had some really crazy neighbors that lived across the road from us. The parents were real nutters and abusive to their kids. They would regularly lock their children out the front of their house and lock the front gate so they couldn't leave with nothing but one glass of water. Now this is outback Australia where temperatures would regularly reach 40-45 degrees. The kids would be screaming and crying out the front. Police would get called, they'd come. Kids would go back inside, then get put back out once they'd left. The mother would also come out the front of the house when my mum would be farewelling or greeting people and start yelling, "Mrs. Colo 89, why won't you be my friend? I know you think I am crazy. Please be my friend." A few years ago I heard the mother had been committed to a psychiatric hospital. Husband remarried and kids have nothing to do with them now. My neighbors have a tent in their backyard. The tent is listed on Airbnb. This is the best one. So he has a truck and a car, both kind of old and beat up. Every day he switches their parking places, and every day he leaves the car running, opens the hood and just stares at the engine for about an hour. He'll step back for a smoke break, eyes still hard on the running engine from afar. Sometimes he'll sit in the driver's seat and listen to the one tape he has left apparently, and it's Sheryl Crow. Every single day. Every day is a winding road. My next door neighbors keep using our stuff. They've been caught with their hose attached to our water, taking our outdoor chairs, etc. They also have no problem honking their car horn repeatedly at any time of day or night when someone isn't getting out of the house fast enough. Cameras. I have inconsiderate neighbors who don't understand personal space or property. They noticed the cameras went up, things stopped being taken and it got quieter. We have about 70 meters of bushes that separate our gardens. Our neighbor cuts the bushes excessively thin on his side so he can watch us through the bushes. He does this exclusively at stretches of bushes where we spend time. So next to our door and our backyard where we used to sit in the sun or play football with my 6 and 7-year-old brothers. You can see his side of the bushes when you're on the main road, and the bush everywhere is dense and about 2 feet thick aside from those spots. Anytime we open the door, makes a noise, we can hear him turning off his lawnmower and making his way to the same place we are. But on his side, landlord lost his crap at him, so the guy bought fencing to put up where he had blatantly cut the bush too thin. This fence is purely a decorative one and can be seen though at head height. Whenever we leave the house, we can hear him finishing what he's doing and he'll be standing down at the front gate to watch us leave. My mom's also caught him a few times staring through the bush into our kitchen. Very large window at our dining table, where mom spends most of her time, so we keep the blinds down all the time. Got reported to the guards years ago for indecent exposure and some other weird crap not related to us. We just don't go in our yard anymore because he's technically not doing anything wrong and we can't stop him. Oh, I just remembered. I also have a neighbor that collects PT cruisers. He's got at least 6 of them and washes them all the time. Seems like a weird car to collect. They aren't vintage or anything. The only car more weird to collect would be the Pontiac Aztec. Across the street, neighbor feeds the stray cat outside. After he empties the food on their plate, he runs his fingers inside of the can and licks the remaining cat food off his fingers. Such a small, inconsequential thing to do, and yet definitely the most disgusting I've read so far. We built a fence on our property line, a few feet into ours actually, and the night it was finished I hear banging outside. I go to the sunroom we have downstairs and see a headlamp moving back and forth quickly. I go outside and see my neighbor throwing lead pipes into our fence screaming, "Can you see me now?" and kept repeating that over and over again. Soon after he spots me and runs back inside. A friend of mine has a neighbor who sometimes walks around in a gas mask. No one can confirm who he is. And that's why I won't remove my mask. Not my neighbor but a friend's. Lady used to put her car in neutral and push it down the driveway because she said it saved her $sign on gas. Same lady would also get on her hands and knees and trim her yard with scissors after the lawn care company was done. I had a friend who did the grass thing. We aren't friends anymore for myriad reasons. My neighbor secretly does my yard work. He's a very reserved man in his 50s, and my fiancé and I are in our mid-late 20s. Our neighbor never talks to us, and will frantically avoid conversation with other people. He blows the leaves in his yard every single day, even during summer. He also waxes his car once a week. If there's a storm, the next day he'll walk around his yard picking up twigs that have broken off of trees until his yard is perfectly clear of twigs. I should mention we live in a forest and both of our yards are at least an acre or so with dozens of trees. The yard obsession doesn't end with his property line though. At least once a month I'll come home and our yard is magically groomed. The leaves have been blown. Even if we just blew the leaves a few days prior, our gravel driveway has been sprayed for weeds, our tiny section of grass has been mowed, etc. We take care of our yard. I have flower beds I maintain, and we do a big yard maintenance day once a month. But it doesn't come close to our neighbor's yard maintenance. I've even caught him in our yard a couple of times and he just hustles out without saying a word. We have a picket fence around our acre lot, so it makes him silently leaving our yard just a little awkward since he has to walk all the way up to the gate. I've tried to thank him multiple times, but the last time I brought him cookies as a thank you for blowing our leaves he would only open the door a crack, took the cookie tin, dumped the cookies into his hand, handed me back the tin, and quickly shut the door. Now I just leave thank you cards in his mailbox. I'm guessing he's either bored, has an obsession with yard maintenance, or is just trying to be nice to the young couple next door but really hates social interaction. I think accepting the cookies was a big deal for him. I have these neighbors that live way behind me, down a long and secluded driveway. They aren't really weird per se, but a nice, country, elderly couple in their late 80s early 90s. Save for one odd habit of his. He kills buzzards and wires their decomposing bodies to his fence. I discovered this when I took my toddler son back there to trick or treat his first time. We're walking down that long butt driveway of theirs and hey, looky there. Big butt dead buzzards, wings outstretched to the fullest, decomposing on the fence. I was just like, well, that's not something you see every day, and went right onto their door, dearly wanting to ask about them. I couldn't be like, trick or treat, what's up with the buzzards? Vultures aka buzzards, stay away from other dead vultures. They may be killing any livestock he had or tearing up his vehicle house. This is a good way to scare them off without killing more. Generally people just use decoys, especially because it's illegal to kill some types of vultures without permits. But I've caught my neighbor probably like 5-6 times just staring at me through the window with complete focus. We got a new guy who can't contain his belongings to his own space. Each condo in the building comes with 2 tandem parking spaces. He owns 5 motorcycles and 3 cars, so that's not enough. They give him another set of tandem spaces, and here's the only reason anyone gives a crap: part of the fire lane in the garage. You saw that. The hoe for the building decided money was more important than safety, so he's got 3 motorcycles in an area actively obstructing the fire lane, which is also against their own stupid HOA rules, not to mention fire codes. But he's not done. You can tell which apartment this guy is in because he's the only one with a huge planter next to his door, in the dang fire lane. The planter has grown. It's now got 2 plastic flamingos, a wagon, and a stroller, all in an active fire safety footpath. Why do I care about fires? We're in California. I'd call the local fire station and make a complaint. Fire marshal would love to hear about this. I had a neighbor, alcoholic druggie, who thought there were 2 women living in my house. I had dyed my hair blonde from brunette. He continually asked where the brunette was and how she was doing. I finally just said she was fine. I have a neighbor who sometimes jams out on his tuba. He always does it in the middle of the day and he's actually pretty good. As a fat person, I feel like he's playing me my own personal theme music and I really freaking love him for that. The people who live next to me like to invite all the other neighbors over for barbecue and whatnot. When I first moved in, it was the only time they had come over to invite me. I'm not super sociable, so I politely declined. Once I'm home, I enjoy my solitude. Probably my own fault though for choosing an apartment complex that tries to promote community. Apparently the fact I wasn't in the mood to socialize must have deeply offended them, considering they spread a rumor around the neighborhood that I'm a drug addicted ex-convict. That's not what's creepy though. What's creepy is how every time I take my dog for a walk, my neighbors will come outside and just glare at me with crossed arms. It's the consistency with how they do it too. It could be 3 AM and here comes the husband in his underwear to give me dirty looks. This sounds like a beginning of a comedy movie. My parents have a neighbor that is obsessed with my mom. It was innocent enough at first. He was just nice and they'd have small conversations. They became friendly and we would invite him over for BBQs and everything. Then he started to get creepy. Every single time my mom would take the dog out, he would appear outside and want to talk her. He would find an excuse to come knock on our door every single day. He got the same haircut and grew the same goatee as my dad and started to dress like my dad. He then went and bought the exact same type of motorcycle as my dad. He started showing up at my mom's work bringing her lunch and flowers. That's when my dad had to confront him and it almost became physical. He has mostly stayed away since then. The next phase in his plan was definitely murdering your dad and taking over his life. There's a senile old lady in the apartment behind me. Every time I take my dogs out, she gives me dirty looks. When she sees my girlfriend, she smiles and talks to her, introduces herself every time as if they've never met. Then I walk outside and she scowls. This morning I took my dogs out. Her blinds were open and she was looking out the window. I saw her and smiled. She shut the blinds, never smiling. I've given up on saying good morning, smiling, etc. I wouldn't take it too personally. She sounds really senile. My grandmother is the same way, terrified of men, so she avoids them at all cost. Every male she sees is a strange man she doesn't know that could hurt her. You may be misinterpreting her actions. Do housemates count? If so, drinks a 2-liter bottle of cola every freaking day, buys it from the corner shop so it costs double as well, stole female housemates' leather trousers and wanked all over them, pretended to fall outside an Albanian car wash garage in order to get compensation from them, is now in great fear of Albanians, had another guy stay for about a month, heard him say about 3 words whilst there, like you say hi and he just walks past. Quite antisocial in that regard, although he never caused a problem, it was just odd. Dude should fear Albanians. He probably triggered a blood feud. They videotape us 24/7. Whenever we come home they stand on their front porch and watch us. They put a big wire fence up between our houses a few years ago. If we're backing out of the driveway they come and watch to make sure nobody hits the fence. Also, their entire house is covered in plants. I can't see in any of the windows. It's very weird. If it's snowing and we accidentally shovel a tiny bit of snow through the wire fence, they will come out and shovel all their snow onto our side. They will cut down trees on our property that are too close to them and throw all the branches in our driveway too. Also have paintballed our house. All because we didn't lend them money a few years ago. Apartment living is amazing. I hear my neighbor throw up dry heave every morning. I had to deal with this as well. I imagine the trash bags full of beer cans on their porch had something to do with it. Very glad I moved away. My neighbors are foreign nationals from China, and I don't think they quite understand the concept of a BBQ. I was tanning on my balcony one afternoon when my neighbors burst out onto their patio quite loudly and break out a great big grocery bag full of meat. Whole Foods bag by the look of it, so one can imagine the meat wasn't cheap. Dude turns up the heat and throws about 7-8 steaks on the grill. Straight. No seasoning. No nothing. Puts the cover back on. Then walks back inside. About 5 minutes and the meat smell is wafting my way. I am not complaining because it smells pretty good. 20 minutes later and I am getting worried because it is well overdue for this guy to flip the steaks. Nothing. Another 20 minutes. Those steaks are definitely suffering by now. The meat smell is still there, but it's starting to smell a bit charred. Nothing. Another hour and a half goes by and these steaks are definitely charcoal by now. The smell of meat is gone, and it has been replaced by the smell of charcoal and propane. I am guessing the tank has run out because I have the same Weber grill and it only fits one tank inside. I hear the guy's Porsche Macan pull back into his garage and the whole family bursts out with leftover bags from Sam Woo's. Guy goes back to the grill, opens it up to witness a bunch of bricks of inedible hunks of charcoal, takes some selfies and pulls them off and throws them on the grass. Freaking what the actual frick? Sounds like he just disposed of a body. I'm pretty sure I'm the weird neighbor, but one time I farted pretty loudly and my downstairs neighbor laughed. Not at all creepy, just weird. My neighbor landscapes my yard. We have like 90 square featuring townhouse yards, and I guess he can't get enough yard work out of his. So far he's installed some stone paths, put in a retaining wall in the front, and now he's planting stuff in the walled area. I hate yard work so much I pay a service to keep my micro yardlet up to city code, so I've told him whatever he wants to do is fine. Still super weird to come home from work and find a new feature in front of my house. That's actually pretty cool. He enjoys it and you get benefits of not having to do yard work while also having a nice little yard. I want him as my neighbor. My neighbor sets off huge fireworks in the street throughout the year and just shoves the remains trash down the sewer. Take that, Pennywise. My sister bro-in-law hated their neighbor. He was a weird pedo type. They had some contractors build a fence in their backyard. He came out into his backyard mid-build and injected one of the guys building the fence in the butt cheek with what he called vitamins. We flipped crap. He ran away. When they cleared out his house they found a shitload of child pee, like Polaroids. It was very bad. I have a neighbor in my apartment block who sings opera, not poorly singing over a recording, but singing well on his own. I live next to a school known for its music program, and he's clearly an upper level opera student. It's never loud enough or late enough to bother me, and he's quite good at it. A few times he's had a woman over and they've practiced together. He's my weirdest neighbor but also one of my favorites. You should dress us like you're going to the opera. Sit on your porch with some wine and start applauding after he's done. Make an evening of it. At my parents' house growing up, he was a horrific gossip and would literally run outside when he saw you to talk about so and so. Anyways, one time I fricked up and needed some plan B. I go to the store and he's there. I notice him following me aisle to aisle, so I double back him, grab the birth control and split for the checkout. I was in the clear until the dumbass cashier couldn't open the box and yells to her boss, "I need help opening this plan B." Of course he freaking showed up. So the next day I have a pit in my stomach because I knew he was going to tell the neighborhood. I pass these two older ladies who mentioned the plan B I took once they assumed I was out of earshot. One said not to tell my mom. It was my business and she understood how rough that must have been. The other commented the neighbor had no business sticking his nose in a teenager's life and she was going to talk to him. My mom never found out. Not so much creepy, just weird. I've lived in my current place for a few years now. My upstairs neighbors moved in about 2 years ago and they are interesting people. When they first moved in, they are really loud while making love. Their bedroom is right above mine. I wasn't bothered by this because it's an apartment. You get used to that crap and B, they did it in the evening, so it wasn't like they were waking anyone up. I always left it alone. One night a few months into their first year, I was trawling around on the top floor outside because the gutter was clogged and the apartment maintenance team is slow as crap. so I was unclogging it myself with a yardstick. My upstairs neighbor came out onto the deck and I nearly scared the crap out of him. But I told him I was just the downstairs neighbor and he relaxed. We got to talking, and then he suddenly got nervous and said, "Hey, me and my girl, we aren't disturbing you, are we?" I laughed and said, "No, I get it. I have a boyfriend too." He said, "Okay, but we'll still try to keep it down," and he went back inside. Ever since then, they've played loud music every time they made love to try and cover it up. It's kind of adorable. They had music playing for 6 hours over the weekend one day and I gave my neighbor a grin and a thumbs up the next day when I ran into him. That thumbs up made you the creepy neighbor. We're pretty sure that the lady who lives across from us is a high-end prostitute. We're in a good neighborhood, but she has a wide variety of older men visit her at all hours of the day. She's the only person on the block who doesn't come to our block parties or socialize. But once she asked my neighbor to mow her lawn and, upon completion, decided not to pay him because the work wasn't of a good enough quality. It was actually decent, and he was 12 years old. For heaven's sake. We now refer to her as that lady and everybody knows who we're talking about. I don't live next to these neighbors anymore, but my next door neighbors had a habit of threatening each other with guns whenever they argued. It wasn't uncommon for their kids to come to our house for safety and to borrow a phone. One or the other was regularly arrested because of this. It was very rare that a month passed and this didn't happen at least once. It was weird to say the least. It was weird to say the least. Understatement of the fricking century. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.